Very good. Marcelo, would you like to introduce yourself first, and then I'll kick it off?
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marcelo Martins. I'm a senior technical consultant with Infor. I've been with the company a little over 9 years, almost 10. Originally started in development on the Mongoose platform and slowly worked my way over to the world of SyteLine and consulting, where I greet you today. Happy to be here. Mike?
Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Keating, a senior client solution executive with Godlan. I'm newer to Godlan, but not new to the CloudSuite Industrial SyteLine platform. I worked at Infor for almost 27 years, actually, in a variety of different roles, both post-sales and pre-sales. Before that, I was on your side of the fence. I was a user of the application at a company that was headquartered in Illinois and had multiple locations scattered across North America. So happy to be along with Marcelo, and we've got some other guests that will allow them to introduce themselves as well too here. Happy to share our experiences and kind of go through, as we like to call it, debunking some of the myths with regards to cloud upgrades. So I see we've got Scott and Donna on. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started?
I'm Donna Sundstrom. I work for Genesis Attachments and we make demolition equipment. And I've been with Genesis for 6 years. Before that, I worked for 16 years at a value-added reseller. And I did modifications and for upgrades and just standalone modifications for ever since it was Mapix. So it's been a long time. And we
The
just went
Matrix
through
space.
2 major upgrades, so that's where I come from.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn off my video just to conserve a little bandwidth here. We'll take you through our agenda for today. So first off, we want to kind of review some of the advantages, some of the benefits, and the value that customers can realize by migrating into CloudSuite Industrial. So again, SyteLine has been the name of the product for many, many, many years. Donna mentioned the Mapix name. I even go back to the SyMix days, if there's anyone out there that goes back that far as well too. So when we talk about CSI or CloudSuite Industrial, today we're obviously going to focus on the value that it provides. We're going to hit this from a couple of different viewpoints. I'm going to start off from more of a functional perspective. Marcelo will come in and talk about it from a technology and a framework perspective. And then Donna will share her experiences having gone through upgrades leading to the cloud migration and talk about some of the advantages that her and her company has been able to realize as well too. We do have a chat feature, so if you want to put any questions into the chat, we will certainly address those during the session. And we do have some time at the end of today's session where we can also have some open Q&A and respond to any additional questions that pop up. So that is our plan for today. So again, when we talk about CloudSuite Industrial, that is, some people use the term evolution, if you will, of SyteLine. CloudSuite Industrial is, for everyone that's already familiar with it, the fully integrated ERP application, the Infor OS, the operating service, which we will dive into in more detail, is kind of that technology framework that helps support it. For those that are familiar with the Mongoose framework for doing, some simple form personalizations and things along those lines, Mongoose is still there. Okay, so we're taking SyteLine as the core ERP, migrating that into a multi-tenant cloud environments, and then adding the capabilities that the Infor OS framework provides as well too. So it's not a new application. It's really just expanding the capabilities that you're already used to from an on-premise perspective. I'm going to take us through a couple of areas, one of which is what we refer to as our cloud bundle. So these are additional features that may not have been available for you in the on-premise world. I'm also going to talk about some of the very high-level functional enhancements that have come out with CSI. And depending on what version of SyteLine you're on, you may or may not be aware of some of these capabilities. So we want to introduce some of those high-level features and functional enhancements. And then again, Marcelo will take us into a deeper dive into the technical enhancements and what Infor OS and some of the other componentry provides. Okay, first off, with regards to a cloud bundle. So what does the term cloud bundle mean? Well, these are additional capabilities that are now available to you within CloudSuite Industrial or CSI that were optional components on the SyteLine side. So on the on-premise deployment, these would have been optional modules, for example, that customers may or may not have leveraged in the past. But these are all capabilities now that are included with the CSI Cloud Bundle. And again, this is not a complete exhaustive list, but just some of the high levels, if you will. The first one is with regards to advanced planning and scheduling, or APS. For anyone that's on SyteLine version 7 and higher, infinite planning, infinite APS was included in the system, and the finite was always an additional optional component. Now both the infinite and finite capabilities of APS are included in the Cloud Bundle, and this way you have the opportunity to leverage finite capability throughout your planning and scheduling capabilities. After sales service management for customers that have those requirements. So this would include things such as call center tracking and online knowledge base, kind of like a keyword lookup, if you will, the ability to have service repair orders and possibly dispatching field technicians, possibly out to the customer site even, or returning product back to you to perform warranty work, tracking all of those service contracts and what is billable to the customer, complete warranty management. Those are just some of the capabilities that are included with CSI Service Management. Again, that is also now included with the Cloud Bundle, as is the Quality Control System, or QCS. So your ability to have inspections and full dispositions on a variety of different transactions that happen with the system, including vendor receiving, job work in process moves, any post-manufacturing final inspections, customer returns that come back. Your ability to have a record of those inspections that you performed and what your final disposition was on those products. You can also have material review processes and corrective actions and overall change management from an executive standpoint. All of those and additional capabilities, including auditing and PPAP and APQP processes and so forth, are available with the quality control system. There are a variety of additional available interfaces as needed. We've listed the tax, credit card, and payroll as examples of those. If you're also familiar with the term the Workbench Suite, and again, depending on what version you're on, this might have been an optional module at the time, but you have ad hoc report writing through the data view capabilities, a system-wide data search tool as well, and the critical numbers provide some additional KPIs, key performance indicators, right within CSI. We've also extended some of the capabilities into the supply chain with regards to vendor request for quotations, vendor RMA process, formerly known as RMX, and outside process management for when you have to send something to outside vendors and provide that visibility as to what is outside. The next two areas are a little technical, so I'll just kind of gloss over them. But with regards to the process intelligence, this is what's formerly known, I should say, as our implementation accelerators. What this does is this provides you with the leading best practice business process flows throughout the entire application, so that you can see who is involved with specific processes, and you could even jump directly from that process flow diagram into the screen within CSI to execute that step in the process, which is an invaluable tool if you have new hires or people are being promoted or a different change of job responsibilities. The process intelligence is a great tool for them to get up to speed as to what are the expectations, what is their role in your critical business processes. And the Infor OS technology stack, which again, we'll see in more detail. So just some of the high level components that are available within OS. Again, we'll be spending more time, a deeper dive into that area in just a few minutes. So that's the cloud, at least a high level of some of the capabilities that are now included with the Cloud Bundle. Again, these would have been optional components for on-premise customers of SyteLine, and those are features that are all now included with your subscription to CloudSuite Industrial. Now, from a functional perspective, and again, this is also a partial list, but some of the major enhancements that have happened inside of CSI SyteLine, first and foremost is kind of modernizing the look and feel of the application, of the user interface, the UI form uplifts. There have been hundreds, and we're probably well over the number 200 of forms that have already been uplifted and modernized, to really kind of take advantage in some cases of just, the capabilities that browsers provide. And certainly our customers many times will have multiple monitors. So making the screens a little more apparent, a little easier to use, minimizing the number of screens that somebody has to open up to execute a certain process. or reducing the number of key clicks within that. For example, there are a lot of times when today you execute a process and then you have to press OK when that pop-up message appears. We've eliminated a lot of those through what we refer to as a toast message. So it's kind of a notification that the process completed, but you don't have to press the OK button. You're at least alerted that the process was completed. So a heavy focus on the ease of use and the user interface capabilities. We've also introduced a couple of different checkboxes with regards to advanced planning and scheduling and what we call the ready flag. This is available at both the job header and the individual operations. What this allows you to do is to have visibility of jobs or even specific operations that have all of the available materials and have all of the resources from a scheduling perspective. They are available, so you could start that job right now if you needed to. It might not be scheduled for some time into the future, but you have everything that you need if maybe if you had some people that were available or a machine unexpectedly became available and you just wanted to get some work performed, we now give you that visibility with a simple checkbox. And because it is a checkbox, you can filter off of that as well too. Advanced vendor performance scorecarding. So this is a new report that actually is a combination of reflecting their performance from both the quantitative standpoint, which kind of ties back to the quality control system and the inspection results, but also qualitative measurements. How responsive is the vendor to phone calls? Do they provide the documentation with their deliveries? So you can actually, rate and score the vendors on qualitative measures as well too. For companies that are in a multi-site environment, we have a variety of different what we refer to as builder forms. So these are activities that could be performed by a single person that would be stretching across multiple sites. And we've listed some of those here, purchase orders, transfer orders, vouchering, invoicing, and journal entries as examples, where these transactions could be performed by a single person in a single process, but those transactions would be extending across a multi-site deployments. We've also reintroduced our native financial report writer, what we commonly refer to as the FRW, into the application, and introduced what we refer to as multi-books capabilities, where customers can have additional sets of their books within the system that might be a little bit different than their legal or reporting structure. So you might potentially want to have a different set of accounting periods, from an analysis standpoint. And through the multi-book capability, you could change, maybe from a 12 to a 13 calendar period, or maybe even change the chart of account structure and how you are doing subtotaling and so forth. So it's a tool that gives you a variety of different ways, almost like a what if capability with regards to generating and analyzing financial statements. We've introduced a graphical view of the indented bill of material and routing, what we refer to as the engineering board, and that can be viewed on both the item master and the jobs form, and potentially even the estimate jobs. It's a great consolidated view of that fully indented bill of materials. We've also introduced a variety of what we now refer to as hub forms. So these are consolidated forms, information that might have been scattered across multiple screens in the past. We've pulled them together onto a single form and given you the ability to perform different actions. So for example, the customer hub form pulls all the information related to a particular customer together, but right from that screen, you can go ahead and initiate a customer order or update an existing order, same thing with an estimate, or perform different activities. So again, trying to reduce the number of forms that a user has to go to execute a process as part of their day-to-day responsibilities. And we've also introduced what we simply refer to as OEE, the overall equipment effectiveness, and supporting that would be downtime reason codes as well too. So with the OEE, you can track the availability of your equipment from a production standpoint. How are they performing to their planned or standard rates from an efficiency perspective, and also from a quality control, and the ability to identify how a machine or group of machines is performing in a combination of those areas. And then lastly, these new features within CSI, there is a new form that's been introduced. It's simply referred to as what's new is the name of the form. So this gives you guys the ability to see all of the features that have been introduced. The hyperlink that you see in the center column will take you directly to that particular screen. And the form will be perpetually updated as new features come out, as the new releases of CloudSuite Industrial are introduced. So that is a high-level overview of, again, the cloud bundle, components that were optional in the on-premise deployments of SyteLine, and the fact that those are now combined and available through the CSI Cloud Bundle, and at least a high-level overview. Again, this list was certainly not complete, but a high-level overview of what those new functional enhancements are. So again, if there are questions on that, please submit them into the chat. And with that, I will stop my sharing, and Marcelo will take us into a little deeper dive into the technology areas.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike. All right, give me 1 second as I share my screen. Should be good to go. Otherwise, let me know. There's a couple things I want to talk to you guys about when we dive into the technical areas of the cloud. First and foremost, I want to start us with a quick review of what the cloud actually means and what we're doing here at Infor. So we'll start all the way at the bottom and just making sure we're on the same level playing field here. Infor is a SaaS application provider, right? So we're not just talking about a variation of taking SyteLine and hosting it with a cloud provider. It is a full end-to-end managed subscription, from the infrastructure to the platform to, of course, all the software that's included with this. We're also a multi-tenant provider, right? There's a big difference between simply taking an application, hosting it, and then connecting one customer to it, where a lot of thought and about 10 years ago, a lot of work was done to re-engineer CloudSuite Industrial to be a true multi-tenant SaaS application where we can deploy and scale at large. Now, how we did that is very important as well, and that's why, where I can go into our AWS partnership. Probably no introduction needed, right? AWS is the leader within the cloud platform services space. They have been, according to Gartner, the consecutive leader for 14, actually 15 plus years. They were named it this year as well. And Infor has solely partnered with AWS largely the last 13, 14 years as well. They invest billions in technology and security and advancements, and that goes hand in hand with Infor's partnership in terms of what they bring to the table, how we integrate that, and then also being one of AWS's largest customers, how they help us and adjust their services for Infor's needs and Infor's customers as well. Now, from a cloud delivery perspective, there's obviously a lot going on, but from a high level, what you'll care about most, obviously, is your CloudSuite Industrial, with SyteLine being the core of the ERP. This technology platform that we'll talk a little bit about as we go. But there's obviously a lot of infrastructure componentry as well, right? AWS and really Infor will manage the availability zones, the scaling groups, the database clustering, the backups, the security, et cetera. And to a larger point, underneath the covers, there's low-level AWS services that we incorporate as well. These are, functional services at the technical layer, like storage or database, compute, or even things like AI. And the top point there is really just, as AWS continues to, of course, innovate and invest billions every year, as the storage gets more reliable, the database gets faster, the AI gets smarter, because Infor is built upon that directly into our services and our applications, we grow and advance as well automatically. Now, from your point of view, of course, from a customer standpoint, you don't have to worry about any of that, right? We're just kind of spelling out the technicalities of what we're doing underneath the covers. From a customer standpoint, you really just can assume that you're going to have a highly available system, right, with a guaranteed SLA, historically over 99.9%, running across multiple availability zones, right? We always have 3 live versions of your entire CSI suite running in multiple locations, right? So guaranteeing that should anything go wrong, we're always available. Access is simplified now to web-based access, right? Just how we kind of run the rest of our lives, right? Everything's through your browser over the internet. You don't need to download or install anything. And of course, everything's encrypted. You will get multiple environments included as well, right? So of course, you'll have your live production environment where we're going to be running the business day to day, but included are 2 non-productions, right? A test and a dev environment being the most common, where we have different use cases for where we would use those. Again, SaaS implies that Infor is going to handle the monitoring, the patches, the updates, and I will talk about the update cycle as well in a little bit, but that's all included. Additionally, so is the scalability of the system, right? We have this fantastic horizontal and vertical scaling with AWS that's essentially unmatched. And that is also included as part of the licensing, right? You don't have to worry or request that the servers get bigger. If things get busy, if it's end of quarter, end of year, we're running a bunch of reports and planning, our systems scale out automatically, right? Per defined thresholds to make sure that we deliver that performance. And then last, but certainly not least, of course, we take backups, right? That's performed automatically. We do it as frequently as every 15 minutes for the transaction log backup, all the way to a full weekly backup as well. Just making sure we've got all that data in an isolated, secure copy, should we ever need to do something like a restore, or more often than not, sometimes we're not perfect, right? And a user accidentally deletes data, right? We have all that information so that we can restore in a moment's notice. So from a high level perspective, right, this is what Infor is delivering for our customers today from the infrastructure perspective. The other probably most important topic that I like to review is the release schedule, if you will. What could you expect from that? The short answer is Infor operates on a monthly release cycle. Every month there is an update, and that is broken into two categories. You have the larger, what we would call feature release, twice a year, every April and October. And that is where new, quote unquote, features will be released, right? All the things that Michael was talking about earlier, whether it's a new report or a new option or a new screen, those come every April and October in the feature release. Now, one thing to call out, of course, is features are toggle controlled, meaning come April and October, those features are released, aka available, they are turned off by default. It is always up to the customer to turn on said new feature using a new form called feature management, right? So you are in control. This is also where those test environments typically come into play in the dev environment, right? Turn it on there first. Maybe you do some training, testing, make sure everything's kosher, then eventually push to production or really toggle the feature in production when ready. The rest of the year is the service release. Now, this is just your ongoing maintenance, for lack of a better word, right? So nothing fancy, no new features. These are ongoing fixes, security updates, sometimes some localization and compliance stuff as well. For all of these releases, there's regular communications on Concierge, right? So you're going to get about a month in advance. Here's the release notes. Here's what to expect. For the feature releases, there will be training. There's also ongoing roadmaps that look out 6, 12, and plus years into the future. All of that's available on Concierge plus more. And then I will mention there is the idea, of course, of a supplementary update. That's the idea of an unplanned update. These are few and far between, but of course, if something goes awry, if there's an issue affecting customers at a certain severity level, we reserve the right to obviously fix that, right? Maybe we don't want to wait to the end of the month. We want to get that taken care of immediately, and we'll do our best, of course, to let you know when, where, and how we're going to do that. And then last but not least, there is a timing for this window, in case anyone's wondering. For North America-based cloud suites, it's typically it's the third Saturday of every month, starting at 12:01 a.m. Eastern. That starts your update window. Within that window, it's kind of a rolling update, right? As it goes over the farm, you as an individual customer will get scheduled sometime within there. There's plenty of alerts that'll let you know, hey, it's coming up. You got 15 minutes left. You got 5 minutes left. And then the actual process on average takes about 15 minutes. So again, this first section was really just establishing a little bit underneath the covers, right? What does Infor mean when we say cloud? What does our partnership with AWS look like? And what can you expect from a release management perspective? The next topic that I want to go over is around extensibility. So if we're debunking cloud myths, the number one conversation I have with existing customers that are entertaining the idea of going to the cloud is, well, what am I supposed to do with all my mods? SyteLine is rich in history in its ability to extend and all the things you can do. So what does that look like? And now there's really two things I want to talk about. One, when we say extensibility, we mean doing mods, for lack of a better term, in a manner that, obviously gels well with the cloud update. So it's much more where we're leaving the core code as is, but still have an isolation layer to apply extension logic as needed so that we can get the best of both worlds, right? We've got hundreds of customers live doing this today, where, again, they get those monthly updates. Every 6 months, there's new features they're entitled to. We're improving SyteLine. but at the same time, that's its strong suit. We can implement that last mile uniqueness through extensibility, just in a couple different ways, right? So when we talk about customers with mods, and there are a lot, believe me, really, if we talk about any modification to SyteLine, ultimately it will fall into one of four buckets when you consider making that move to the cloud. So the first bucket is the retire bucket. And we do see a lot of this. You made a bunch of reports. We go in, we look at, hey, when's the last time you ran some of these reports? Some of them come up, they haven't been ran in 3 years. We don't even remember why we made that report. Well, that's obviously an easy retire, right? We don't need that modification. We can eliminate it and move forward. Then the next bucket is replace. So this is obviously going to be stuff that we want to bring, but maybe it's already implemented in some of the newer features, whether it's one of the new modules that Michael now mentioned are included, new from the technology side of the house, or just a new capability that is surfaced solely by moving to the cloud, right? So some things might be replaced. Maybe the new document management solution that's included replaces something that you're doing automatically. Then there's re-engineer. This is also a fair size bucket. Things that we don't want to get rid of, but isn't replaced natively in the new functionality, well, then we'll bring it with us, right? And we're going to go into more details, but there's a lot of ability to still extend a lot of things that you'll know and love that we will bring with us, and the way that we can do that. So whether it's doing things within the Mongoose layer with table definitions, IDOs, creating and extending forms, or again, some of the new technology, maybe we can rebuild some of that as well. Last but not least, and typically the smallest bucket, right, is the big stuff, roadmap, right? Maybe it's an entire module that you built, but it's good enough that we think most customers could probably make use of it. Well, maybe that's something we want to submit as an enhancement request to get into the roadmap so that it becomes standard for everybody. Now, the question that I normally get is, well, what's the biggest blocker, and how are things different in the cloud? Well, to someone's surprise, depending, the biggest difference is just direct database access, right? And obviously that isn't allowed for many reasons, security being one of the biggest ones. And that has kind of a coattail of different side effects that stem from that. The biggest being, since you can't directly access the database, you do lose some things. And then obviously there is a path forward as well. So from custom stored procedures and functions, those do go away. Direct database triggers that you set up, or custom database triggers, ODBC and direct SSMX access. And then potentially, if we have some customers that have some tenure here, right, depending on your version, Crystal and or SSRS reports have been replaced as well. So what does that look like going forward? From a custom logic stored procedure perspective, we really just move up a layer, right? We move up to the C# custom assembly layer. There's a lot of different things that you can do in this layer. It's about the same speed and the same level of access. We still got to submit queries to the database. We still got to do that, but we're doing it through the .NET framework, through the CSI SDK, through that isolated application layer. But we're still doing the exact same things, right? We're still gathering data. We're still doing custom load methods. We're still, parsing and working with all that stuff within the system. From database triggers and direct connections are largely replaced by the application event system, which has been in the system for a while, depending on your version, but has also improved quite a bit in the cloud version as well. Data lake, which I didn't really get to talk too much, but there is a read-only, let's call it reporting database, if you will, data location, data lake, that you do have access to, right? So when we, certain use cases, we can pull it directly from the data lake that does have a JDBC driver. And then REST API is the next most common way for any cloud vendor, right? That's direct, bidirectional access to your data in real time via those REST APIs. And then last but not least, but also, of course, worth mentioning, is Mongoose reporting in the new Burst, or our analytical platform, Infor analytics. So we did move from third-party reporting with Crystal and SSRS to Mongoose. So all those reports are now built in-house under the Mongoose framework, directly in SyteLine, if you want to think of it that way. And so some of those reports can be rewritten, or sometimes we'll bring that data that we have in the cloud. Maybe you have hundreds of SSRS reports, and we'll just make a local copy of everything. You can continue to run SSRS or Crystal against that local copy, but all the real data obviously lives in the cloud for the rest of the reporting. Same thing with our analytical platform. And again, this is a larger subject that I spend a couple hours with most customers, obviously going through the details of what's different, what's allowed, what's not allowed. The point being, there's always a path forward. Things are different, is how I like to say it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't. But there's a different way to do things in the cloud per that necessity of getting all the other benefits that you get. So there's some things that change, and this is how we, at large, obviously, there's more to this, but at large, how we get there. And then the last thing that I did want to talk about as more of a cloud-only functionality and a bit of a preview is Infor's Velocity Suite, right? And I'll just spend 2 minutes on this, but I do think it's important. As the world evolves, right, there's a lot of talk about advanced technologies, AI, Gen AI, robotic process automation, OCR capabilities, X, Y, and Z, right? And Infor is no stranger to all of this. We've had offerings in some of these spaces for a long time now. But what we've really seen is how do we truly get most of our customers a true way to adopt that functionality quickly, easily, simplistically from a pricing and implementation perspective. And that's the goal of this new offering called Velocity Suite, which again is a cloud-only offering and an add-on. But what it does is it's just that. It's a package of solutions to help us get there, to use those advanced technologies, to really take things to the next level of leveraging the cloud and all the things that are great, right? And so there's 4 or 3 main points to that. There's process mining, which will take those process catalogs that we've established, right? That best practice of, how do I go from a requisition to an order to shipping to, all the way through those different business processes. And process mining will mine that. It will gather up all that information and play it back to you. I think of it as analytics on steroids, right? What's actually happening in my company? Where are the bottlenecks? Who's following procedure? Who isn't? Plays all that back to you to give you real, I like to say, a real pulse, right? The live statistics of diagnosing how that business is running and how those processes are. Once we do that, then we can automate. So Infor is building a library built upon those advanced technologies, AI, Gen AI, RPA, to help automate certain facets of the business process, right? Maybe it's invoice automation or customer order creation, email summarization, advanced analytics, advanced dashboards, whatever it may be. That's what the Value Plus catalog is, right? We're not going to build it uniquely for each customer per each implementation. We need to start from a catalog to accelerate that process, right? And that's exactly what Value Plus is. And then last but not least is Optimize. And that's taking the new Gen AI capabilities, whether it's SyteLine helping you write an email when you're using the communication wizard, to the new Gen AI chatbot that's going to come out, which will allow you to talk to SyteLine directly. What am how many purchase orders do I have for vendor 1? How many of them are open? Direct communication in plain English, or I guess technically the language of your choice, but a completely new way to interact with the system. And that's what we would consider the last one is Optimize. Unlimited usage of that, right? So we don't want a hindrance once we've diagnosed and we've automated and we've got this brand new way of consolidating and working with the system. We want to take that and leverage it to its full potential. So that last part is unlimited usage of all of these features. And this is meant to be an iterative process, right? We might start with one process, find an automation that helps and optimize it, but then we could do that again for as many processes as we see fit. And that's what Velocity Suite's all about. Okay. And I know I went a little quick there, and I think I'm right around my time. Panelists, is there any questions that maybe I want to answer, or should we just wait toward the end? It's up to us here. Let's see. I'll answer one real quick, and then I'm going to pass it over because I want to give Donna all the time that she deserves. So there was one from Jeff around how far will backups be available? So that's a fantastic question. The full backups are obviously taken weekly and retained for 35 days. After that, they do go away, but you can request a local copy from Infor free of charge twice a year that you can store for as long as you would like as well. So automated on the Infor side of the house, we retain everything for 35 days. And then after that, you can have a local copy that you can store for as long as you like, wherever you would like. Okay, now with that, I am going to stop sharing because I think as exciting as diving into the tech and talking about the future, we have an even better offering here of letting Donna from Genesis, an actual customer, tell you a little bit about her experience. So Donna, I want to make sure you're still on and ready to go.
Yep, I'm still on.
Perfect. All right. Well, if you don't mind, Donna, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, we went at Genesis, we went live to the cloud 5 years ago. We went from SyteLine 8 on-prem, and Genesis is a extremely heavily modified company. And we use all the stored procedures and everything. That was all my experience. And when we decided to go to the cloud, we had to make the decision to go either on-prem or on the cloud. And we decided that it would be better to have Infor take care of all the upgrades and the backups and everything, because we didn't really want a whole IT department. We basically wanted, to just be able to do our demolition business. So I was brought on to help them with their modifications and to bring them up into the cloud. And I identified as many of the modifications as I could. And the nice thing about the upgrade was having the data does not change, that much. I mean, they had to do a few things because SyteLine 8 up until 10, they added all the site functionality and a few things like that. So they had to bring up the data, but since the data was basically all there, they could bring it up into our TRN environment, and we could work on our modifications and make sure they were all working to go live. And so when we went live, I mean, we went within 8 months because everything just went so smooth. We were very, very happy, didn't have any major issues. And in fact, our parent company went from a custom ERP, and they ended up also going, I think, within 9 months. And I think most of the issues they had was, data, and it was more on their end. It wasn't on like Infor's end, but it all came up good and no problems, and they're going fine. They've been on for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. They've been on live also. So to kind of hopefully address some of the concerns from the IT, the modification slant, what we ended up doing was we, instead of all the stored procedures, there are some that you can use the XGens. Some of them are already rewritten into custom assemblies, the IDEO extension classes. We've also used extended some of those. We use basically IDOs and derived fields, either our own IDOs or we've extended IDOs. As far as reports, what we used to do is in stored procedures, we used to just add a bunch of UET fields or extra fields. And now it's just even easier to do by adding a secondary collection onto a report. And that you can just add whatever fields you want. You just link it to the main collection. It works great. So that was really easy. We use global scripts, form scripts behind the forms. We use those pretty heavily. We always use best practices to make sure that our code's always at the end. We name our stuff, with our company and initials, just to make sure everything is, easy to find. And so like when we have our monthly upgrades, we haven't had hardly any problems. I think in 5 years, we might have had I don't know, 4 or 5 conflicts. So we're thinking maybe one a year, where the actual conflict had us actually have to recreate a modification. Couple of those were because a stored procedure was rewritten into a custom assembly, but it didn't take very long to redo the modification. Most of it just goes really smooth. They have a very nice uplift um, diffing kind of tool so that you can complete your uplift, and it shows you what they think has changed and you can accept it, merge it in. I mean, that's really nice. So we haven't had any problems with that. Um, we've had no issues. We have never in either company had to go back to a backup for anything. So everything's been great. And the support with the concierge in the customer support portal is fabulous. So we've been very happy with all the customer support also with Infor. Some of the modifications that we've done, we've created our own shop floor schedules. We've created item specifications. We've created notes on like some transaction tables. Let's see, we've done like configurations that create notes on forms, not like the actual configuration that, but we've created utilities that run every night through the extension classes. So, I mean, there's just about anything you can do that you could do on-prem, you can do in the cloud. And we've had a lot of success with that. And I mean, I would suggest, that it's very easy to work with. So I don't know if anybody has any other questions. I could go on with more information, but basically between the data views and the form scripts and the regular Mongoose functionality, it's just as easy to work with. So Marcelo, is there any other questions or anything else you think I should go over?
No, that was wonderful. I'm checking. I don't see any questions, but to the larger group, if anyone has any direct questions for Donna, please feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll be monitoring that. Otherwise, I don't know if there's any other questions we want to have or if any of the other panelists have any follow-up.
Yeah, actually, Marcelo, there was a question that Courtney asked early on, the functional enhancements that I reviewed. And again, that was a high-level review. Are they only available in the cloud version, or are they available in the latest on-prem version? And for the most part, what I reviewed here, like the functional enhancements inside of CSI, it's like the APS ready flag and some of those newer forms. Those are available in both version 10 on-premise as well as CSI. The cloud bundle, though, the very first listing that I reviewed was the finite APS and the quality control and after sales service and so forth. Those are only available with CSI Cloud, again, as part of the cloud bundle. But some of those key functional enhancements inside of CSI are also available in version 10 on premise.
Awesome. And actually, I think there's another one that I can answer. Actually, there might be two of them. So Tim asked again about backups. How long are they maintained? Once again, 35 days on the Infor side that you can have a local download for that. But yes, after those 35 days, they're overwritten, right, with the next weekly, and then that keeps for 35 days. So yes, they are overwritten. They're kept for 35 days. They're replaced weekly, and then you can download that local copy if you prefer. Another question that came in, which is a good one, a little bit future focused from Dean, is what's the current availability or roadmap of agentic AI functionality? So this is a fantastic question. For those that aren't familiar, right, agentic AI is kind of that last phase of Gen AI, where we have truly autonomous ability to complete tasks from said agents and or orchestrator within our system, right? So from point A to point B, let's say an entire business process could be automated through what we'd call agentic AI. So the question being, where are we at? What are we looking at? How are we road mapping that from Infor's perspective? The very short answer is we're certainly taking note of it, right? That's where we want to be. But the reality of what's characterized as a fully autonomous, the ability to independently make decisions over complex objectives is probably maybe a year or two away at minimum, right? We are laying the groundwork. So Infor already has a Gen AI platform. We are building tools that are, tools are what integrate to the ERPs. We're building MCPs and protocols that help us automatically manage that and when to call which protocol. So we're getting the building blocks in, and we've already released in limited availability a lot of those building blocks. But there's obviously at a point where how do you get it to scale? How do you make sure it's reliable? When do we actually let the AI drive the ship? Right? It's a little risky and exciting and all of these things at once. So we're on our way, but we're at the bottom of that pyramid right now with all the building blocks being implemented throughout Infor, right, for all of our services. And then there was one for Donna as well. Donna, Dean also asked, were there any issues with performance in any areas?
No, we haven't noticed anything in the speed of anything. Couple of our mods, we were looking at a lot of records, and I mean, it goes, maybe 30 seconds instead of 5. But if what we had to do with some of our forms is, put in different parameters to kind of, move stuff. But we would have had to do that with the on-prem also. Yeah, we haven't had any problems with any of that.
Wonderful. All right, I'll mark that. And then there's one other question that I see coming in from Jeff, and that is, who performs the mods? We currently have our own staff that does most of the modding. So the question to that, or the answer to that, Jeff, is you can continue to do mods, right? So I know I didn't get too deep into it, but all of the same techniques and technology that you probably use today on your on-premise system is still available, meaning you can still go into design mode. You can still, like we talked about, right, create custom assemblies, add logic, use the event system, workflows, etc. Those are all available to you, right? We're not restricting you in any way from that perspective. You still have access to that as the customer. So many customers own that, will continue to own that forever. And then, I guess the caveat to that, or the devil's advocate, is obviously partners and Infor are also available to help when needed, right? If there is an area that you're not familiar with that you want to obviously outsource, that's where the partners do a great job as well. All right, and then I think I've got one more that just came in. Are you able to share the extent of your customers using outside of North America? So I'll probably piggyback with Michael to get his 2 cents on this, but we certainly do have many customers that are global, running SyteLine outside of North America, in Asia, in Europe, all over. I don't have any numbers or anything like that, and unless Michael, you want to make any comments to that as well.
Yeah, I don't have specific numbers, but we certainly have customers that are global. We have other customers that are only based internationally. So from an Amazon Web Services deployment standpoint, there are different farms that are available, strategically placed throughout the world for companies that might only be internationally based, and they can access different farms, or whether it's in Sydney or Frankfurt or so forth. So again, the application is set up to support a multinational configuration, and again, depending on the actual physical locations, there may be a different Amazon farm that might be more advantageous for them to connect into.
Wonderful.
And then one other point, Marcelo, and I know in the essence of time we didn't have the opportunity to get into tremendous details, but obviously from an Amazon standpoint, they provide just tremendous power and infrastructure with regards to preventing ransomwares. We talked about backups and so forth, but all of the capabilities that they provide and the amount of R&D that they put into their infrastructure from a security standpoint is just outstanding. I mean, nobody can touch the amount of effort and R&D that they're putting into their security prevention applications.
Yeah, absolutely. The story I always tell there, right, is, I don't know what your current IT staff looks like, right? But when you move to the cloud, I can guarantee you have dozens of individuals 24/7 monitoring the farm, right?
Hmm.
So kind of the things that you can only get when you scale to that multi-tenant environment.
Yep, exactly.
All right, folks, I don't see any more questions coming in. Again, if there's any more, please feel free, pop them in. We've got a couple minutes left. Otherwise, I might pass it back to Stephanie, our host, to potentially close us out.
Yeah, thank you, Marcella. This was great information. We will get a copy of the recording out to everyone. And we thank you so much for joining. Hope you have a great day.